Hey there! Post 9 to 5s, Gen Z or .com kids. They go by many names and are truly China's global generation. They have been shaped by the technology of the 21st century. Let's look at some key Chinese Gen Z characteristics. The extraordinary, ordinary people. Gen Z is a generation without a standard role model. There is no longer a template for their aspirations. If there is no template for success, what do Gen Z aspire to be? A dream that tops the list is being an ordinary person. But what does Gen Z mean by ordinary person? Ordinary does not mean mediocre. They aspire to be an ordinary person who is extraordinary in their own way. 72% of Gen Z believe that their own opinions and achievements in a particular area can better represent themselves than their consumption and career. Excelling in what was once termed meaningless and frivolous in society is now seen as meaningful. Also, leading an ordinary life also means that failure is seen as a positive thing. 60% of Gen Z in China agree that today, failure is seen as a positive thing. An ordinary life means daily life is no longer secondary, but has become the focus of life, and they make the most of the opportunity to rewrite every day. The unscripted generation. China's Gen Z is a generation of short commitment. 49% of Gen Z in China say they enjoy canceling plans they've made. Their identity is constantly self-renewing and the feeling of now outweighs anything else. How proficient and rational is China's Gen Z? For Gen Z, making a purchase feels like undertaking a huge research project. In the end, their decision is still made by momentary emotions. What motivates them to take action is a hook, a tagline, a picture, a scene, or a strong call to action. They can accurately detect sponsored ads. 84% believe that the goods recommended by KOL and influencers are not trustworthy. The connection paradox. China's Gen Z enjoys its independence, but also desire connection. Sometimes they find this connection with their pets. With the rise of new technology, they have a multitude of ways to connect with each other. These connections are based on interests and mindsets. This communication and conversation happens at a breakneck speed. Relationship algorithm, fast matching, fast filtering. Communicate with acronym but never characters. One meme speaks louder than 1,000 words. Are they satisfied? This level of connectivity is part of their everyday life. 68% of Chinese Gen Z prefer to socialize via messaging apps on their phones than in person. 61% of Chinese Gen Z try to avoid answering phone calls. 66% Gen Z prefer to play video games with their friends as opposed to meeting up in person. Gen Z appear to be satisfied with this connection, but is this kind of connection really enough for them? Gen Z optimized the connection but missed out on the opportunity and process of building deep intimacy, and the lack of deep connection generates the loneliness inside. 63% of Gen Z in China feel lonely despite being surrounded by family and friends. Craving true authenticity. 58% of Gen Z agree that it's important to put the truth ahead of all factors. They look up to unpolished idols. This kind of idol is no longer the puppet, makes mistakes, and has his/her own unique personality. Sometimes they dare to express dislikes on social networks. Academics are no longer just the serious, far-off people of the past. They appear on various video sites, telling jokes. Gen Z also gains knowledge via these channels. The Gen Z audience is attracted to powerful women. Audiences no longer like the silly girl image. They want to see an intelligent female image with her own ideas. Even malicious is not an exaggeration. Handsome and cool, that's what counts. Unconcealed attitude towards retouched photos and advertising posts. Voting with wallets. 93% of Gen Z in China agreed that they have the power to influence a global brand's actions and behaviors for the better. And 87% of Gen Z in China said they would spend more on a brand that supports an issue they care about. Gen Z is a generation that takes a stand with their wallets. Fans pay to reward and vote for their favorite idols. Fans pay for idol-related products to prove their commercial value. Express support for original content by paying. 72% of Gen Z respondents said that they always share their thoughts and provide feedback, whereas this ratio is only 40% globally. Meanwhile, over half of Gen Z will leave comments on brands' websites. A brand statement is no longer limited to slogans. Any behavior will be perceived as declaring a position by consumers. A well-known laptop brand invited a Chinese talk show actor to endorse the brand. But the brand had to withdraw its endorsement because it was thought to have caused controversy by provoking the topic of confrontation between the sexes. A well-known Chinese personal financial business brand apologized for the serious value problems of financial advertising on short video platforms. A highly aggregated video platform causes disputes because its pop-up ads involve content that does not respect women. After that, several brands announced the termination of their contract. The modern patriot. Gen Z rate their national sense of pride as 9.38/10 points, higher than other age groups. What is Gen Z exactly passionate about as far as their patriotic attitude is concerned? Inspired by the famous star's love of the Chinese nickname, Pickled Pepper, the world-renowned sports brand combines Chinese characters with English. The spicy taste of pickled peppers is linked to the star's team, and the word spicy is also very characteristic of Chinese cuisine. Do not stick to the tradition, but looking forward to the representative pioneer of modern civilization. In summary, so how can your brand resonate with all the mentioned Chinese Gen Z characteristics? Celebrate ordinary. Allow failure. Encourage own pursuits. When facing the lonely Gen Z in this atomized society, brands have the opportunity to become a medium that helps create dialogues and emotional anchors between consumers and further facilitate the establishment of deep intimacy. More than ever, Chinese Gen Z expects brands to represent their lives in a more authentic manner, portraying the real challenges they face in life accurately, and potentially stepping up to alleviate these issues with their voice. For example, presenting a more anti-template image of a flawed persona, communicating in a straightforward or even self-mocking way, and growing up with consumers instead of teaching them how to behave. Incumbent brands are bound to live under the supervision from society and general public. Whether or not a brand can sustain its affinity and preference in the long run rests on how the brand performs in undertaking more social responsibilities and implementing initiatives